Greetings, random people of the internet. I'm Shinto, and I like making vaguely educational videos that should in theory benefit the self-proclaimed comic artists out there. Would be a shame if this actually were a video taking that premise somewhat seriously. Dear lord, let's get this over with before you actually grow accustomed to my videos making any sense. First things first. Why would I make this video specifically about Webtoon? Because Tapas has no readers to the point where it is basically just a glorified forum advertising Webtoon series. Also, because we both know that you are too lazy to create your own website, and I sure as fuck am not qualified enough to give you any tips on how to make one in the first place. So Webtoon it is. Plenty of people on there, and if by some form of divine intervention one of the readers of the more famous sponsored series run out of money to spend on the privilege of being able to binge that one series they follow, and then are still too bored to stop reading but not bored enough to literally do anything else with their life, they might consider the following. Insert taking deep breath sound here. Close the series they were just reading. Go over to the Canvas section. Click on a genre because you obviously haven't been handpicked by the staff as one of the 20-ish poster boys. Scroll down until for some ungodly reason they decide your series thumbnail looks better than the rest of the no-name shitters on this cursed subsection of the app, no offense. Read your clumsily cobbled together plot synopsis, decide they are not above whatever they just forced their poor brains to decipher, then deem the art on your episode thumbnails worthy of their eyes' ability to make any sense of what might be on one of the actual pages, then, and only then, will they start reading your comic. Probably quit halfway through the first panel, uninstall the Webtoon app, throw their phone against the wall and immediately call up their mom's shrink for the therapy they now certainly need on a bi-weekly basis. If this sounds to you as if getting even a single subscriber over on the incredibly oversaturated market that is WEBTOON Canvas is about as likely as finding Jesus making sweet passionate love to a genetically engineered Japanese cat girl, you'd be right. And only to the toughest and most dedicated of you can I actually recommend pursuing this career path non-ironically. Still better than fine arts, I guess. At least on Webtoon you have somewhat of a chance of making any money before biting the dust or making a deal with the mafia of your choice to participate in some light money laundering by abusing the shit out of the very concept of art galleries. Now that I've obviously convinced you that you are good enough to post your clusterfuck of an original, or let's be honest here, probably less than original idea on Webtoon, let's get to the technical stuff. First, we research. Specifically, let's research our desired target demographic. Since not only most of the readers, but also most of the artists on Webtoon are to a big extent horny 13-year-old girls that want to identify themselves with your series protagonist, it only stands to reason you want to scrap all the ideas you had for an engaging main character and instead make it a somewhat sexy ethnic dude on the spectrum with clinical depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, a hang for dramatic dialogue and a taste for homosexuality. Because we all know that inclusivity means cramming as many mental illnesses and quirks into one character as humanly possible. But in writing only. Don't you dare make them express any of those traits on an actual panel, without it being pure exposition mentioned by a different character entirely whose only purpose is to talk about how hard the protagonist had it prior to the plot. Also, those teenage girls still want to ship themselves with all the love interests, but only if it's some male-on-male action in their mind. Don't ask me why. I'm just going off of the amount of boy love self-pity porn that is readily available on the internet, as if for some reason every single website turned into early 2010s Tumblr overnight. I don't judge, I'm just mildly disappointed. Now, since you have designed your main character and they have a striking resemblance to that one scene from an old anime called Welcome to the NHK, we can finally move on to the next step. Quickly explaining what the fuck Welcome to the NHK is. It's basically paranoid incel with all the issues. The anime. Enough said. Go watch it yourself, you uncultured fuck. I mean, onwards? Alright. You have beautifully over-engineered your main character and crammed enough tropes into them that even multiple personality disorder wouldn't cut it anymore to make it believable. That can only mean it's time to forcefully jam your monstrosity of a self-insert power fantasy into whatever post-apocalyptic universe you deem fit. Just remember, if it ain't broke enough, turn it into an isekai. The less sense the world makes to you, the less sense it will make to your readers. And that's obviously a good thing, because it means you get to write whole chapters trying to explain what the fuck is actually going on, only to completely contradict yourself later down the line. This fuck up and attempt to save it circle jerk is inherently interesting enough for many mainstream manga, so why wouldn't it work for you? Alternatively, you may follow the following procedure to create yourself a nice plot outline. Make a list of your favorite 12 anime that coincidentally only have 12 episodes. Roughly note down what happens in each of their episodes and what kind of episode it is. For example, Episode 1 of Insert Seasonal Harem Comedy here. Protagonist bumps into tsundere. Hijinks ensues. Episode 8. Protagonist is still oblivious to best girl's feelings, but this time it's a beach episode. Now, after you have done that for all of your chosen anime, just reorganize it. Take episode 1 from the first anime and follow it up with episode 2 from the second anime and so on. If by the end of episode 12 it still makes sense, you know you either did it right or your taste in Eastern media is trash enough for you to make it big. You have your plot now, great, have a cookie, you've earned it. You may now move on to the actual drawing part. For that, you must always keep in mind that artistic ability is a spectrum. There is always gonna be someone significantly better than you. Okay, maybe it's not a spectrum. What I mean is, your art sucks and you should be ashamed of yourself. At least that's what my parents always told me when I mentioned my career of choice. You will never make any money, they said. And by God, they were right. At least I can now punish them for their overly supportive nature by living at their expense in a basement with an acceptable internet connection that I am kind enough not to share with them. But now seriously, how does one create art for Webtoon? I for one am actually a great fan of an ancient and sacred technique called polishing the turd. It consists of only 2 steps. Make a rough sketch on one layer, then make the actual line art on a layer above that one, sometimes forgetting to switch layers in between, so you have to do the Ctrl-Z of shame about 200 times until you run out of saved steps with one meticulously over-rendered left eye on your fucking sketch layer that you can't get rid of unless you delete the whole thing with your eraser, but that would suck, right? You spend so much time on it, so you just adjust the layer opacity and try to recreate it on the right layer this time, but now it looks way off, so you give up and go watch a sad movie on Netflix instead while shoving ice cream down your throat. Now I apply that whole process on a per episode basis. But how does one create a Webtoon episode, you ask? Again, there are 2 main ways of drawing an episode. Either make it too detailed and take forever, or don't make it detailed enough and still only post like once a month with every other update just being a written excuse as to why you are running late. I honestly can't recommend any of those. Instead, I urge you to follow these simple steps. Buy Clip Studio Paint EX. Use the Create Webtoon option. Enable the little preview thingy that roughly shows you how much is visible on a phone screen. Space your panels in a way so that there is only 1 or 2 visible at any given time. Use the free or very cheap backgrounds you can download from Clip to save some time. Try to see how many panels you can effectively draw in 3 days. I'm talking actual days, not 72 hours of work. Also take into account that you actually have to fully color them, otherwise the community will give you shit for not conforming to their expectations. The amount of panels you end up with after hopefully not dying in the process is the amount you should have per upload. The idea is that if you upload once a week and only work 3 days at the pace you're comfortable with, you will naturally build up a little bit of a buffer without crunching too much. After all, you don't want to end up like a game developer. Or me. Just keep at it until you have about 5 of those episodes lined up ready for release, post 3 of them at once because apparently that's what you're supposed to do. Why? Because readers get an annoying pop-up after reading 3 episodes telling them to fucking subscribe or go die in a corner like the little bitch they are. With the subscriber to page view ratio Webtoon has, it might as well be phrased that exact way. Make sure to upload at the time that is most convenient to an American audience, because God knows those fuckers aren't privileged enough already. Okay, before this video gets any more cynical in nature, I shall put an end to it. On that note, go read my fucking comic, or even better, get back to work.